Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here with Carey Dillen, who is the president of YYoga. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with me today.
Yeah, excited.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I actually did go to UBC, Sauder School of Business, for the first year. And then...
What happened?
Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to major in.
Yeah.
So I ended up kind of leaving and going and working. And I was traveling and dancing and competing and just doing a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
And then a year later, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back. And I actually decided to go back to the U of A.
Yeah.
So I went to Alberta,
Yeah.
and then I went to Hawaii because it was too cold in Alberta.
That's a step in the right direction.
But ended up with a Bachelor of Commerce kind of at the end of the day. And then went into work at KPMG. I'm a CA, CPA by trade. And then, yeah, if you want to know kind of the whole story, I left.
Maybe some other brands, any other notable brands that you work for that we would recognize?
Lots. Every single brand I've worked for is notable. So Mountain Equipment Co-op,
Yep.
MEC. I worked for the 2010 Olympic Games. I was the first 50 people in and one of the last 20 left at the end of the games.
Wow.
So I was there for the full 5 years.
Yeah.
And then I went to Boston Pizza and worked as head of finance there, and then moved into YYoga. So
Wow.
been with YYoga for 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love pierogi pizza at Boston Pizza.
Oh, yes. Yes. That is like one of the favorite. Or the all meat wings.
Oh, yeah.
Another huge favorite.
There's some good stuff at Boston Pizza. Growing
Yeah.
up in Chilliwack, Boston Pizza was the classy restaurant to eat at. So.
Exactly. I think it's like the fabric of every kid
Yeah, it's true.
growing up. Like if you're Canadian, you've been to a Boston Pizza.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So you've been with YYoga for 7 years. Did you enter as the president of the company?
No, entered in as the CFO.
Mm-hmm.
And they had taken on some venture capital and they wanted to expand across Canada and kind of up-level the organization. I came in, was there for a couple of years, and then took over everything
Yeah.
kind of after that.
Yeah.
So I run marketing, operations, we call it teachers and programming and things like that, technology, finance, and that's about it, and strategy, I guess.
Yeah. So when I think of YYoga, and you can tell me if my understanding is correct, because I don't do yoga yet.
See, you probably went, I'm not bendy enough. That's why I don't
Well,
go.
I don't know. I don't really want to get into like why I don't do yoga. I mean, sure, I'm not flexible. That's for sure. That is absolutely.
That's the reason
I know.
why.
That's why I'm saying I'm not going to like go there because
You know my answer.
It's like, why don't you go to the gym? Because I'm not strong. Well, that's not a good enough answer to not
Exactly.
go to the gym. So my understanding of YYoga is you have yoga studios. I pay for a class or maybe a monthly or annual membership, and I can go and engage with classes, or maybe I can just pay per class. And I'm doing yoga inside your studios, and you have a bunch Lower Mainland and across Canada.
Correct. Yep.
What am I missing in that description?
So a couple of components that you're missing is we actually have a YYoga at Home. So it's an on-demand platform. So one of our missions is to bring yoga to everybody and every body, to be able to make it welcoming. And we're really just focusing in on Canada.
Yeah.
So where we don't have studio locations, we were thinking, how do we actually get others access to what we do, because we believe that what we do is so important for people to be a part of. So by delivering something on demand, people can actually connect to it. And we also launched Ono YYoga, so franchising last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, right before COVID, which is great.
Timing. Like, I think everyone did something just before COVID, and they're like, oh, well.
Yeah, it was right at the tail end of 2019, and we have lots of people in the pipeline, tons of interest and excitement, and then COVID hit, so it's a bit on pause right now.
Wow, okay. So, 2021, how many franchises are you guys targeting to open?
Again, we're not targeting anything. For us, it's about getting the right partner. So we want to be super conscious of who we're bringing in, so that they have the right values and ethics and really are going to be integrated into what we do.
Okay, that's great. So we're going to talk today about exactly what you just referenced, values and ethics and conscious marketing and things like that. So let's first maybe talk about, if I say conscious marketing, like what is it that pops into your head, whether it's related to YYoga or not? Just kind of a general sense of what do you think that means?
Marketing that makes people feel better, not worse about themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a big component for me. And the other is connection to community, whether that's, environmental, social, like something that you're bettering the community.
Yeah.
that you're surrounded by.
So there's some kind of progression here in what we're doing from a marketing perspective, is what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Not necessarily marginalizing people or making people feel bad about themselves. I think what we see in marketing a lot is that in order for people to sell, in order for businesses to sell, they have to make people feel bad, and that product fulfills that need, right? There's that emptiness, and allow my product to fill that, you're ugly, you're fat, you're whatever it is. But you're talking about taking a different approach.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we're conscious about how we market to people. It's not about, hey, come here and lose weight.
Yeah.
It's about, come here and feel better, mentally and physically,
right?
And connect with yourself.
So you talk about mentally. So how much, if you were to talk to, your do you call them clients or customers or members or guests? Okay. Yeah. So when you talk to your guests, how much of the yoga experience is kind of the mental, the cognitive? How much of that is valued by your guests?
It's interesting. I think that most people come into yoga for the physical aspect of it, and they end up staying because of the mental aspect of it. So I would say it's probably a progression and a journey for each individual guest of how they actually get there, and it sort of comes together, that mind body of why you end up staying.
Right. So I understand that I live in Kitsilano, and you guys are from Kitsilano. I understand that yoga would be successful in Kits. That makes sense to me. It seems like everywhere I go. But let's say I'm in Regina or Winnipeg. Okay, so I get that the values of the average Kits citizen lines up with what you want to do with YYoga. But how do you work into maybe a society where kind of the general ideology is maybe not what it is in Kitsilano, and you're going to go into maybe that community with a franchisee and launch a yoga studio and gather enough people?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it comes down to building a community and building the right partners around you that believe in what you're doing. So you're going to go open up something in Regina. It's about really giving something to the community that they don't know that they need. Yeah. And them understanding that you just need to step foot into the studio to really be a part of what we're doing and to break down the barrier. So if a studio is really scary, we also do stuff in parks and small little meditations, and we try to weave it in different ways so that people can see it's not just I'm not bendy. That doesn't resonate for me. There's a bunch of other facets. That's great. That you can kind of make your way in and make it a little bit more accessible.
Right. I used to be the VP of marketing for a brand called Kula Frozen Yogurt, and we did lots of events with you guys. Yeah. This is probably maybe 7 years ago. Yeah. I'm not sure that Kula's around anymore these days, but
I've seen a few. I was just going to say I've seen a few of them close.
I don't think that they're around anymore. I think the whole frozen yogurt thing is kind of over with. Yeah. And anyways, and so we would give free frozen yogurt to some of your outdoor classes, and it worked really well. And there was the value alignment. It was kind of a healthy dessert, and the target market was very similar, and there was kind of this consciousness in marketing to say, like, we are both making the world a better place, so let's work together. And that was actually great to work with you guys at that point. Yeah. So if I say we're talking about like a kind of a greater purpose. So what does marketing a greater purpose look like? How does YYoga do such a thing?
Yeah, because I know we have a pretty lofty kind of mission statement, which says exactly what you just said, right? To make the world a better place. And that sounds, that's a BHAG. That's like, how do you actually bring that down to your staff to sort of what you do every day? And sort of the way I like to sort of think about it is the more people that we can touch with what we do creates this ripple effect out in the community. You're going to be a better mom, sister, brother, aunt, uncle, friend, whatever that is. And that's going to create this ripple effect to make the world a better place. Yeah. So we just really need to find a way. How do we invite all people to come and just touch and experience it? Because you're going to walk away just a better human being, which just creates that social impact.
So who is your target market? What is that person? What do they do? What do they look like? What are they interested in?
Yeah. Interesting question. So we've started to change how we view who our customer is. So we used to really look at it in terms of demographics, right? Yeah. We're female, right? And you'd sort of start to kind of go down
the list.
Exactly. And we were like, that doesn't feel right to us. Those are kind of some of the people that are coming, but really who is our guest? And somebody who's socially conscious,
right,
who cares about the environment, who gives back to the community, who donates. So we started to form a different viewpoint of who our customer is and who we want to attract and who is attracted to us.
Yeah.
Because we think like that's actually the fabric that makes it sticky.
Right.
And if we can do more of those things that they love as part of their own life, then that's a great marriage, right? That's a great partnership for us.
So you're really looking at the values of the individuals rather than how old they are or what their ethnicity is or how much money they make or whatever that is.
Yeah, because I've been asked that question during this whole Black Lives Matter. Oh, what's your ethnicity and population? Right. And I said, I have no idea. We don't collect any of that kind of information.
Right.
And people have been a little bit, well, how come? And I said, because we don't. That's not the way we're viewing. But I think that, that's part of us being really conscious of asking those questions now of like, are we actually open to everybody coming in?
Yeah.
And does everybody feel comfortable?
Yeah.
So we're taking that sort of conscious conversation and taking it internal right now.
So one of the interviews I've done in this series was with a guy named David Allison, who published a book called Value Graphics. And it really is fundamentally about that. It's really about ignoring the demographic, geographic segmentation, focusing more on psychographic and behavioral segmentation, but really about the values of an individual, because we're far more likely to be have something in common with someone who has the same values of us than maybe someone the same age or the same gender or the same ethnicity. Yeah. And I think that's a sophisticated approach to segmentation that you guys are taking there.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
So it's exciting. I think for the marketing team too, to sort of like put a different lens on it.
Yeah. So what does corporate responsibility mean to you guys? Corporate social responsibility?
Yeah, when I think of that, I think of, social, environmental, that kind of sort of topics.
Yeah, like the triple bottom line type of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So how do you guys engage in economic, social, and environmental sustainability within your brand? Yeah,
so we're conscious of how we build. When we build out the studios from an environmental footprint perspective, low grade paints and things like that. We use bamboo throughout because it's more of a sustainable wood, and really think about longevity of the studio versus using a lot of sort of composite products. So that's one sort of place that we look at. When I think about social, we're very much tied to our community and the give back, and we engaged in a social impact initiatives probably a couple of years ago to start to really embed and create long-term partnerships in the community around a variety of causes. So we've done stuff with like Kids Sport, Red Door Shelter, Covenant House, like a variety of just trying to, the communities that we're in, trying to elevate them and help.
Like, what does that look like actually? Or like, are you doing...
Like, what do we do?
Yeah, like, are you doing yoga classes for... underprivileged women or something like that?
Yes, we have. I
figured you had.
Right. Or we've done yoga classes and helping to support others in the Indigenous community to do those as well. Yeah. We've given yoga mats to like Covenant House for the kids to actually do yoga. Right. We've donated, we've raised money, we've done partnerships to raise money for a variety of causes. So to be honest with you, each partnership is a little bit different and it just all depends. But it's just trying to find where's their alignment and how can we help. Yeah.
So I'm particularly interested in when you send an instructor or staff to a location, rather than giving money or yoga mats, like how much of an impact does that have when your instructor goes, and what are they actually doing to make a positive impact on that community beyond just like telling them to do downward dog? Like what else happens in that conversation?
With the teacher?
Yeah, like how are they impacting the students beyond just the physical yoga moves?
Yeah, it's interesting. The physical kind of asanas is what we call them.
Asanas?
Asanas,
What's
ASANA. It means pose.
Okay.
Yeah, so the postures that you're in, the poses, those are called asanas. Yeah. The breathing that you do is pranayama. Yeah. So all of these sorts of things, I know. Woo, fancy. But like I think it's part of it is the conversation that the teacher takes the student on a journey in that class. Yeah. Sometimes they theme the class to help people get connected to body and mind. And if it's, depending on what the organization is and what we're trying to do to help and why we're even there, we try to weave that in as well and provide something afterwards for them to continue to tap into their practice beyond just kind of that one moment in time.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does conscious leadership from you and other staff that you have in leadership, how does that produce a culture of conscious marketing within your company?
Just every decision that we make is like, how do we feel about it? Does it align with our values? Mm-hmm. Does it feel ethically right in what we're doing? And if the guests knew we were doing it, would they be okay with it?
Right.
Like how are we using their data?
Okay. That privacy is a big concern?
Yep, 100%. We're sort of conscious of the data that we take in and how we use it. So we don't sell it. We don't do anything like that with it, but we're conscious of things like that. So I would say almost every decision that we make, even in how we sell things to our guests, that trickles right down to the team. It's not about putting somebody in a room and, making them buy something and putting them in a pressure situation. Yeah. Literally our sales, we call it a sales conversation is actually what it's called. And we ask them, hey, how many times do you think you're going to come? How much do you want to spend? What is that going to look like? How's this going to fit into your life? Yeah. And then we go, okay, so it's a consultative kind of sales process where we ask a bunch of questions so that we can give them the right fit and the right value, because if they feel like we're trying to help them, which is truly what we're trying to do, they're going to be there for the longer term versus just like a one and done hard sales. Here, this has the highest margin, push that today. Yeah. That's not what we're about, because it doesn't fit with the culture that we're trying to achieve, which is making everybody welcome and having them feel like they're not pressured.
Yeah. So the whole sales process that you guys go through is pretty gentle. Yep. It's a conversation, as you said. The fitness industry. Are you the fitness industry? Is that what we call it? What you're in?
Sure. Yeah, that's what we are.
So I think is notorious for not doing what you're talking about. And people have a really bad impression of many different facilities for the hard sell that they push, which is unfortunate because it drives people away from doing something that they should be doing. Yeah. What mistakes or are there any mistakes that you could identify that you said, we are a conscious company. We try to do our best when it comes to social, environmental impacts, etc. But there was that one thing we did, it didn't go over well. Maybe our customers didn't react. Can you identify anything that you think, well, that was a learning experience? Maybe it's not huge. Maybe it's small.
Yeah, one that kind of pops into my mind is when we were going through and doing a pricing change. Mm-hmm. So we hadn't done a pricing change in 4 years at all, and we were looking to kind of move one of our prices. I would say, it was moving about 20%, which is just something that's a lot, and it was on our annual pass sale. Yeah. And that didn't go over well with our longtime customers. Yeah. They were like, I'm used to paying this. You want me to pay 20% more? I don't care. And we had like 50% drop off on our annual sales. Oh, wow. and it kind of just kept snowballing. And we were like, and when we did our market, because we did tons of market research to go where we were so low on our annual passes that we were like, okay, we're just going to like we're not even to average yet. And we haven't increased in 4 years. So for us, that lesson learned was one big shift is too much for our guests to intake like that, because it doesn't feel fair to them, even though we tried to kind of tell them, we haven't done this for 4 years, like we've been really conscious, but it didn't matter to them. So what we learned from that process is our guests really value fairness, and if they're a long-term customer, they want to be treated differently, and they'd rather it be in smaller increments than one big sort of not feeling good reaction to that price increase. So that was a lesson learned, I would say, that we actually ended up going back on. Yeah. And we said, okay, we heard you. Mm-hmm. Let's just, and so we started to kind of go back to those customers that were not very happy, and they were like, okay, thank you for listening, and yes, I will put my money back towards you.
So you allowed some members to stay on at the old price and some paid the new price.
Yeah, so we put them on as grandfathered, and we gave them the option. Those that didn't, we said, okay, hey, we want to come back to you. Even those that that I paid the higher price that had been long-term members, we were like, we hear you, here you go, and we adjusted prices.
Oh, really? Yeah. So they were willing to pay, and you went back and said, actually, we'll drop it back. We'll grandfather you in. Yeah. All new guests now pay this new rate. Yeah. Yeah. That's excellent. I mean, that's a challenging position to be in when your market research goes bad, or it's not.
Well, the market research was good, but what we learned from that was you can't not do something for 4 years, because we didn't change prices for 4 years because we were like, no, we have a loyal customer base, like we don't. And then when we needed to, because we were behind and our costs were escalating, and we were like, wow, like. Yeah. We actually need to in order to have a sustainable business.
Rent started going up in Vancouver, and
but every year it was, and employment, the minimum wage was going up, and all that. And we were like we really held off as long as we could from pushing that cost back onto the customer.
So this is a bit off topic, but you just touched on something interesting, and you have a finance background. Minimum wage goes up. Yeah. Does that affect how much the consumer pays? When minimum wage goes up, do you theoretically, not you, but maybe businesses in general?
I would say absolutely. Yeah, for sure. You can see it all over Vancouver, right? Yeah. As soon as minimum wage went up, you saw prices start shifting up. Yeah. I would say as commercial rates went up and insurance went up and property taxes went up, you could see everything. Like when a salad used to be $10, it's now $18, and it's the same salad, right?
Cold pressed juice was $9.99, and now it's like $14.
Exactly, right? So like you can see that happening, and what's interesting is when you're in a service business, like ours, where it's the product is the experience. It feels different when the prices go up because it's not a necessity. Yeah. Right. It's if I've got extra money or if I value this really high in my life, then I'm going to put money aside to do that. Yeah. And then there's a tipping point. Yeah. Right. Versus food. Well, you kind of got to eat.
You do. Yeah. You not kinda.
So I think some places it's easier to make that cost shift onto the consumer, and other places it's trickier.
That's great. Well, it's been great chatting with you today, Carey. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks
so much.
Thank you.
This is Carey Dillen from YYoga. Thank you very much.